everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome back to my Fill the World Create a Sim challenge, where we are once more in Oasis Springs and we are now in the next neighborhood called Skyward Palms, which, if you're not sure which neighborhood that is, it's the neighborhood where the Caliente family and Don Lothario start off living. So we are definitely moving up. These houses are bigger, they're more expensive. And yeah, so this is for the house called Granada Place. It's the smallest of the houses in that neighborhood, but this is the Reid family, and they live in a 3-bedroom, 3-bathroom house that's very nicely laid out and decorated. I mean, you know, for a base game pre-made house, it's very nicely decorated compared to some of the houses that we've seen earlier on in Oasis Springs. So first up, we have Brad Reid. He is the dad in the family, and Brad is an athlete. He is also kind of a bro, and he's not necessarily the most attractive person, but he does put a lot of effort into being fit. So he has a lot of fitness skill points. He has 8 fitness skill points, and he also has 2 wellness skill points. The other interesting thing about him, I thought, is that he actually has gardening skill points too, because he's very into like just putting whole ingredients into his body. So he figures, you know, best way to make sure that the ingredients that you're putting into you are good and good for you is to just grow them yourself. Sorry, I keep having to clear my throat. I'm battling really bad seasonal allergies right now, and I'm gonna try my best to like edit out any coughing or throat clearing, but 1 or 2 may slip through, let's be honest. So Brad is a bro. He's kind of on the preppier side. You know, he grew up in a family with a lot of privilege and money, and yeah, he's not a bad guy though. He's nice and everything. He's definitely had a silver spoon in his mouth his entire life. So he is married to a lovely lady named Stephanie, and we'll see her in a little bit, but Stephanie's sister has tragically passed away, and so their niece Maple, which is Stephanie's sister's daughter, has just moved in with them, and she now lives with them because she doesn't have any parents left. And so Brad's not too happy about the sudden extra responsibility that has been kind of thrust upon him, because Brad and Stephanie have their own daughter named Madison, who they love and adore, and they think the world of her. So she's an only child, so they put a lot of pressure on her to do well in life, but they also kind of spoil her. So in their house, there's a master bedroom, obviously, and then there's this like big bedroom that's like very pink and purple, and it's very over the top. And that is Madison's room. And then next to Madison's room is a much smaller room with like the cheapest double bed you can possibly have in the base game. And like not really, you know, any personal decorations. And it does sort of have this green color scheme, but it's not great. So in that bedroom is Maple's bedroom. So she is in the guest room with the worst bed, and there's just nothing really, like the only personal item of hers in that room is her backpack for school. So, you know, she gets along okay with her aunt, and as far as her Uncle Brad goes, they don't really get along very well. Brad gets along great with his own immediate family. He gets along wonderfully with Stephanie. They have a good marriage. He loves his daughter Madison, and, you know, but as far as his niece goes, he's not too happy that, you know, they're sort of forced into taking her in, because he sort of thinks that, you know, well, she's a teenager. Why can't she just go out and live on her own and just take care of herself? And so that has been a little bit of a cause of tension between him and Stephanie, because Stephanie obviously, you know, fought to have Maple come live with them because she's family, you know? Like, she only had one sister, and that one sister had one kid, so they're all that Maple has in the world. And so she's really, you know, kind of vouched for Maple. But by doing that, then Brad hasn't been too happy with her about this, and it's been a little bit of an extra source of tension in their family right now. So this is Stephanie. So Stephanie is interesting too. So Stephanie also came from a family that had, like a good amount of money, but not as well off as Brad's family was. But she's also never really had to, struggle, or, she didn't have to work very hard in life to get where she is. So she is in the social media career. She is in public relations, and because of her career choice, she is realizing that the world is kind of geared towards younger people. It's the younger demographic that advertisers are wanting to spend their money on, and younger people they just generally have things come to them a little bit easier for whatever reason. And as she's getting older, she's realizing that she is getting further and further away from that group of people. So she tries to dress kind of younger. Initially, I really wasn't sure if I wanted her to dress like a younger person would, or if I wanted her to dress like more upscale, but I sort of see her like almost in a bit of a midlife crisis in a way. So she has a lot of like very trendy outfits with like sparkles and glitter and, like low cut tops, and just, she's very aware of the fact that she is getting older, and she's kind of bucking against that a little bit. She obviously doesn't pull that off very well. I mean, she looks older, but, let's be honest, in real life, we've all met people or know of people who are older than they act or dress or look. And, more often than not, think of like Amy Poehler's character in the movie Mean Girls, where she's like, I'm a cool mom. Like that's Stephanie. A little bit less annoying, but that's kind of her vibe, is she just wants to be friends with Madison, and she's not that much older than the daughter that she gave birth to 7 or 8 years earlier, but so she has a lot of like very young looks for her. She also has a lot of charisma skill points. She's got a good amount of comedy skill points. Like, she's also very into like entertaining and hanging out with friends. But she is actually a pretty good parent. Like, she definitely wants to be her daughter's BFF, but she does know how to be a good parent at the same time, which is interesting because most of the time it's kind of like a one or another type of thing. Like, either you're really good at being a parent or your child is your best friend. So she's kind of, on she's on that border. I don't know that once Madison ages up to being a teenager, how well that will work out, because personally I could see Madison getting a little tired of her mom and being like, okay, well, it was fine when I was a little kid for you to act like you were my friend, not my mom, but I'm a teenager now, so you need to kind of pull yourself out of that, because I have my own friends and you should have your own friends too. So that might be a bit of a wake-up call for Stephanie, but she loves having Maple around too. They have a good relationship. I think Maple reminds Stephanie of her sister, and she and her sister did have a really good relationship together. They were good friends growing up, and so, she obviously really wants Maple to be part of their family now, and there is that extra special connection where, Maple is very similar to her mom. And so Stephanie, I think, really likes having her around for that extra comfort in a way. So next up is going to be the aforementioned Maple. Maple's last name, by the way, is not Reid. It's Pierce, because obviously Reid is Brad's last name. So, and Maple is interesting. She's a very laid back and casual sim. So she doesn't really fit in so well with her aunt and uncle in that way, because they are both very into outward appearances and looking good and taking really good care of themselves, but not for any sort of health benefit necessarily, just so they look good and attractive. So Maple's kind of different from that. She's a little bit more of like salt of the earth. She's actually quite beautiful, but she doesn't really put a lot of effort into what she looks like. A lot of her outfits are very simple, very casual. She wears her hair up in like a top knotty bun pretty much all the time. I did give her braces too because she's working on getting her teeth straightened out. So, you know, but that doesn't really bother her all that much, honestly. I mean, she is very, very different from her aunt and uncle. And as I said before, she and her uncle don't really get along. They have a really pretty awful relationship. And, you know, even before she came to live with them, she never really liked him all that much because he is just so different from her. I mean, Stephanie is also very different, but Stephanie, you know, Stephanie and Maple at least have that, like, biological connection because of Maple's mom being Stephanie's sister. So they could at least somewhat see eye to eye to one another, but really, you know, Brad and Maple have an absolutely terrible relationship. But so the one person in their household that Maple does get along with really, really well is her cousin Madison. And Madison is a child, so she's just a little girl still, but she absolutely loves and adores Maple. So Maple is an only child, obviously, and so is Madison. So I think by having Maple around, Madison is really just happy because it's like, you know, she has this instantaneous big sister in a way that she's always wanted and has never had before. So, they get along really well. Madison is more on the intellectual side, and so is Maple. You know, she's not about like the looking good, working out, health nut kind of thing that Brad and Stephanie are into. She's not quite so shallow and vain. And Madison is so young yet that she hasn't had time for her parents' personalities to really rub off on her too much. So Maple, I think, is able to still hang out with her cousin and doesn't really have to worry about her being too impressionable in the opposite way of what Maple would be. I don't know how to explain this. So, like, basically, because Madison is so young still, she and Maple can still get along really, really well, even though Madison's parents and Maple don't have very similar personalities. So, you know, I mean, I think, and Maple's new to the neighborhood too, so she doesn't really know anybody else, and she's always gotten along really well with Madison, so I think the two of them kind of cling together. Even though Maple is a teen and Madison is a kid, you know, if you have that one friend, it doesn't matter how old they are, you're gonna hang on to that one friend. So Maple is a future chef in training. So she is clumsy, and what was the other trait I gave her? Was it good? I think I gave her the good trait too. Yeah. So yeah, she has not tons of skill points just yet. She does have an A in high school, but she has a couple of fishing skill points, a couple of cooking skill points, handiness, logic, and writing. That is actually one thing that's interesting. Maple and Stephanie both have some writing skill points. Stephanie has some because of her job working in public relations. She has to write press releases and that sort of thing. And so even though Maple is, you know, not very far along with her writing skill, that is something that she has in common with her aunt. So I could see, especially as she gets older, that maybe that's something that she and her aunt can bond over. So yeah, so this is little Madison, and because she idolizes her cousin so much, she actually ends up dressing a lot like her in many of her outfits. So Maple always has her hair up in that bun with like the swoopy bangs in the front, and so Madison has started wearing her hair up in a like top knot messy bun type of look. She doesn't have the bangs, but, you know, maybe her mom wouldn't let her cut bangs. You never know. So Madison, I actually sort of view her as maybe a little bit of an older kid, like not quite to a tween age, but not like a 5-year-old or anything. I sort of picture her to be like 10, where she's aware of like pop culture things more and what's trendy, what's not trendy, like, you know, she still has like the pink and purple, almost kind of babyish room, but she's starting to grow out of that, and I think by spending more and more time with her older cousin Maple, she's going to end up growing out of that even more. So basically a lot of her outfits, like, you know, Maple had an outfit where she was wearing shorts with like a purple shirt tied around the waist with a gray t-shirt, and so naturally Madison has an outfit where she's wearing shorts with a purple shirt tied around the waist with a gray t-shirt. So, you know, not 100% copying, but definitely looks up to her cousin, probably more so than she does her own mom because they're closer in age. And, you know, I mean, like, any little sibling out there, which I'm not a little sibling, but any little sibling out there will tell you that at some point in their lives, if they had an older sibling, they sort of copied them in either fashion or behavior or, you know, what have you. So this is the Reid family. You can get them on the Sims 4 gallery right now. There'll be a link in the description box below the video, or you can always search for them in the gallery with my username, Mrs. Tomato 1018, or with the hashtag Mrs. Tomato 1018. And yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, you can do so down below. I put out a new video every day, Monday through Friday. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed this, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye!